What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at 10 top teams for the Open Great League, and we're going to first start off with the top 20 ranked Pokemon and then hop into those teams. So without further ado, let's take a look at what the top 20 ranked Pokemon are according to PVPOKE. At number 1 spot, we have Galarian Corsola, followed by Credilli, Gastrodon, Azumarill, Shadow Marowak, Shadow Dusknoir, Bastiodon, Dusclops, regular Dusknoir, regular Marowak, Altaria, regular Credilli, with Bullet Seed as opposed to Acid. We've got Stunfisk, Corviknight, Runerigus at number 15, Dragonair, Shadow Dragonair at number 16, Wigglytuff, Goodra, Forretress, and regular Gligar with Night Slash. So a bit of an interesting shakeup, and we're going to take a look at why the rankings are what they are. And the reason for that is this meta is so incredibly wide that you actually have even Pokemon down in like the 100+ range are only in like the high to mid 80s in terms of their actual like rank score, which is not very different than the low 90s here that we have in the top 20. So let's hop into the top teams. So the very first team we're going to take a look at today is Dedenne, Corviknight, and Toedscool. So all three of these Pokemon are in the top 40. We have Dedenne as an electric fairy on the lead, which has only 2 weaknesses, which are poison and ground. So if you combine that with Corviknight, which is a steel flyer, it resists both, and you have a really solid core. And then Toedscool does a pretty similar thing. It's a Mud Slapper, which hits poison for super effective damage, but it also resists ground as a part grass type. You are double weak to fire in the back, so if you catch one on the lead, you do have to stay in with the Dedenne, and then Corviknight should probably be your safe swap for this team. You could also replace Toedscool with Torterra as a more spicier option. The next thing we're going to take a look at, Team 2 consists of 3 quite bulky Pokemon, and a new grass flyer has risen to the top, and that is Dartrix. So Dartrix is the pre-evolution of Decidueye. It got double buffed with access to both Peck and Leafage this season, both of which are Shadow Claw clones, so very solid moves there. The recommended moveset on PvPoke currently is Peck. However, when simmed with Leafage, it does look a little bit better, and specifically for a team like this, I think Leafage would definitely be the way to go. Dartrix, of course, has 5 weaknesses, which are Fire, Flying, Rock, Poison, and a double weakness to Ice, which is why Lapras makes sense as a safe switch, right? You've got Psywave for the super effective damage on the poisons, you've got Sparkling Aria, which hits the Fire and Rock for super effective damage, and then you've got Ice Beam, which hits the Flyers for super effective damage. It's also a Water/Ice, which means it's typing double resist Ice, which is a weakness of your lead. And then likewise, you've got Bastiodon, which hits Fire, Flying, Ice, all for super effective damage with Smackdown and Stone Edge. And then as a Steel, it also resists Flying, Rock, Poison, and Ice. You also have a double weakness to Fighting in the back, which Dartrix, of course, covers in the lead. But also, your safe swap isn't too bad into Fighting because it has super effective coverage with Psywave, which could allow you to potentially flip switch. You'll also notice that I've selected the Shadow Bastion over the regular for this team specifically, and that's actually for a good reason, right? So the Shadow Bastion picks up a unique win against Corviknight, which is a top meta threat, among a couple other metamons, while dropping some less metamons in return. Next team we're going to take a look at, team number 3, features the dominant Empoleon. Empoleon is an absolute menace in the Fairy Dragon dominated meta with its newly acquired Metal Sound. Empoleon as a Water/Steel has 3 weaknesses, Electric, Fighting, and Ground. It also has a whopping 11 resistances, 3 of which are actually double resistances, which is pretty crazy. Runerigus is functioning as the safe swap for this team, resisting both Fighting and Electric with a wide array of coverage and boosted success from the decrease in Dark types floating around. And then you've got Dachshund, which is a bit on the spicier side, but as a fairy, it can deal with any fighters that Empoleon doesn't want to see and adds some much needed bulk to this team. Next up, team number 4 is an ABC style line similar to team 2, but in this case we have Primeape 2-Force alignment as our safe swap, and then a really solid core of Venusaur plus Carbink. Venusaur, of course, got access to Sludge this season, which improves its pacing, similar to what Superior had in the past, where it was like straight 5 to Aerial Ace and then 6 to Frenzy. It's the exact same. You've got Vine Whip to Frenzy, which is of course the same pacing, but then you have Sludge as your bait move, which is the same amount of energy as Aerial Ace was last season. Carbink, of course, relies heavily on its bulk and unique typing to core break the meta. It's a wall to energy from Corviknight now that Ironhead has been dropped for Payback and Air Cutter, which is really nice. It also has better pacing this season with the rebuff to Rock Slide, which is now a 2 damage per energy move with Stab. Carbink has fallen a whopping 98 ranks since the last rotation of the Great League, which kind of just goes to show you how wide this meta truly is, because it's still a very strong Pokemon, even if it's not very flexible. Alright, team number 5, we've got another ABC style line where Forretress is on the lead as an answer to both your dragons and fairies. This team has 2 answers to dragon type coverage, which is very prevalent in the current meta. With Wigglytuff, you also have Forretress, which has only 1 weakness, and that is a double weakness to fire, but it's also very bad into fighters because both Bug Bite and Rock Tomb are resisted. So what better way to cover it than a Corsola on the safe swap, which resists fighting and can hit fire for super effective damage with Power Gem. In the back, we have Wiggly, who received the Charm rework of less damage but more energy. It also deals with the fighting weakness of your lead. Alright, up next, team number 6, we've got another ABC style line with the buffed Goodra. So Goodra has a new and improved pacing, allowing it to reach its charge moves at lightning fast pacing. I'm talking straight 9 to the Aqua Tail, and I believe straight 10 to the Thunder Punch, which is absolutely insane. Goodra has a plethora of other viable move options as well, but Aqua Tail plus Thunder Punch gives it great coverage. Alas, to cover its fairy weakness, we have a Poison, Clodsire, and a Steel, Scizor to shut those down in the back. Scizor also hits Ice for super effective damage with Bullet Punch, which is another weakness of Goodra, and it also may be a good reason to run Stone Edge on Clodsire, not to mention, over Sludge Bomb specifically, not to mention that having Stone Edge is kind of required, because otherwise you're completely walled by Corviknight, which is very prevalent in the current meta, both Sludge Bomb and Earthquake being resisted. Okay, team number 7 features the buffed Weather Ball Ninetales. Stunfisk on your lead has really unique coverage to deal with the meta at large. Electric for your flyers and waters, and then ground for your poison, steals, and fires. Furret is your safe swap on this team that makes a solid core with Stunfisk. It has access to Trailblaze that hits super effective into the Mud Slappers and the water types that Stunfisk doesn't necessarily want to see. In return, Stunfisk deals with the steals that Furret is walled by, even the flying ones thanks to Thunder Shock and Discharge. And then in the back is the buffed Weather Ball Alolan Ninetales. That Shadow bonus makes this spammy bait move a real threat, I'm telling you. The Ice also pairs really well with Electric because Electric is resisted by 3 things: Ground, Dragon, and Grass, which Ice can hit each for super effective damage. Likewise, as a Fairy, Ninetales is weak to Steel, Poison, and Fire, which Ground can hit for super effective damage, and then if it's a flyer plus one of those typings, you've got that electric coverage. So really strong core here, and a team I'm probably going to be taking a look at soon on this channel. Next up, we've got Tinkaton, Diggersby, and Charizard. Charizard, of course, got the lightning fast pacing of either Ember or Dragon Breath, plus Air Cutter and Blast Burn. On the lead, we have Tinkaton, a bulky Steel/Fairy with decent coverage and only 2 weaknesses, which are Ground and Fire. Diggersby is the safe swap for this team, offering super effective coverage into the Fire weakness with Scorching Sands, and never thought I'd see the day where Diggersby was not in the top 100. I mean, truly, this meta is so incredibly wide. It's still a very strong Pokemon. Lastly, we have our closer, resisting the weaknesses of our lead, both fire and flying. Fire and ground as a fire flyer. And that is Shadow Charizard. The new improved pacing from the reworked Dragon Breath allows Charizard to get to Stab, Shadow boosted Air Cutter in only 9 turns. And then also you can also save your shields for it, as the other 2 Pokemon on this team are very bulky. It also has the nuke of Blast Burn to hit the pesky steals that Tinkaton doesn't want it to deal with for super effective damage. Something like a Corviknight would be otherwise very tricky. It's up to you what you prefer for the fast move on Charizard. Ember or Dragon Breath will do. I will say that I specifically prefer Dragon Breath when running the Shadow, as it has great synergy with Air Cutter, because potentially boosting your attack and then having that added damage from the Dragon Breaths is really nice, and you don't really lose all that much pacing. It just kind of gives you better neutral coverage in matchups where otherwise Ember might be resisted, so just something to consider. Team number 9 is Alolan Sandslash, Claydol, and Shadow Gyarados. Sandslash is kind of a given as it's a core breaker that resists Fairy as a steel. It also hits other steels for super effective damage with Drill Run, and it can hit dragons for super effective damage with Ice Punch. And it's a real threat despite its ranking. I do recommend the non-Shadow for a team where you have such a glassy Mon in the back. You've got Claydol, which is the safe swap for this team, meant to lure out something that doesn't want to face Sandslash. And then Claydol actually has very similar coverage as the Sandslash with both ground and ice coverage as well, but also the ability to debuff with Rock Tomb. Claydol has both Mud Slap and Rock Tomb for the fire weakness on the lead, and then it resists fighting with its psychic typing, which Sandslash is double weak to, and it's also double weak to fire. It's also weak to ground as well, so that's why we have Shadow Gyarados in the back as a water flyer, because it resists ground, it resists fighting, and it resists fire. Aquatail supplies you with a 35 energy bait move that you can get to in only 9 turns, and you can cover three different types with your fast and 2 charge moves: dragon, water, and dark, which is really nice. We've seen this typing in before with either Pelipper or Mantine, and they always have made a great core with Sandslash. Finally, team number 10, we've got another Stunfisk, but this time it's Galarian. It's Steel/Ground typing, and Bulk are not uncommon thanks to Steelix, but this one beats Steelix because it's a Mudshot user. It also hits other steels for super effective damage with Earthquake, and then it also has really nice coverage with Rock Slide. Like Steelix, of course, it has 4 weaknesses: fire, water, ground, and fighting. So what better to pair it with than one of the oldest cores in GBL, Altaria. So Altaria, as a dragon flyer, resists ground, water, fire, and fighting with a weakness to fairy, rock, dragon, and ice, which Stunfisk actually covers really nicely. It resists fairy, it resists rock, it resists dragon, and it takes neutral from ice, but it has super effective coverage into ice with Rock Slide. And then Seaking functions as a great safe swap with very similar coverage to 2 other Pokemon that we just discussed, both Sandslash and Claydol, except Seaking has new and improved pacing with the buff to Peck. As a mono water type, it also only has 2 weaknesses, so it resists the fire and water weakness of the lead. It has Peck for the fighters, which are weak to on the lead, and Icy Wind for the grounds, which are weak to on the lead. It also has super effective coverage into its only 2 weaknesses. It's weak to electric and grass. Icy Wind hits grass for super effective damage, and Drill Run hits electric for super effective damage. So a very, very strong safe swap. But yeah, that is going to be 10 top teams for the Open Great League. And before we wrap up this video, I want to say a special thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dr. Mustache, Soham Patil, and Eliana, as well as the legend trainer members on this channel: Andrew Bitten, Musaju, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, Fasted Boss, Jamie Finn, CD Slaskus, and Castle. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.